A very good evening to all our viewers, and welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Tewan Jabela, your host. Let's look at the front page of today's Namibian Sun. Today on the show, I'm joined by my colleague Matthias Haufiku. He's the news editor of Namibian Sun, and we'll be, zooming into some of the topical issues right now, things that are in the news in the the recent days, especially also in Namibian Sun today. My brother, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Teva. Good evening. It's good to be on this side of the aisle today.
For once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's look at our paper. Of course, our lead story, as we showed the front page earlier to the viewers, is about IMF approving the 3.8 billion loan to Namibia, and what the IMF is demanding is transparency.
Yeah.
And we are not very good at, as a country, what kind of pressure does it put on government to make sure that every cent is accounted for? Because we're not very good in that space.
Yeah. I think it's a blessing in disguise, especially for us as citizens. We've been struggling to hold them. We are trying to hold them to account, but they seem to have evasive tactics.
Yeah.
Remember also the COVID package.
Yeah.
Was it the 8.1 billion?
Yeah.
We still don't know what happened, what is the status of it. The budget went, we expected them at least to account during the budget. That much didn't come through. So I think it's good that the IMF has placed this condition on this. And I would really say it for most of us who knows the history of Namibia and its outlook on IMF, it came as a surprise.
Yeah.
We once vouched that we'll never borrow from the IMF.
Yeah.
Is this now a case of having borrowed, finished all the facilities at other banks, and you are moving bank to bank?
Yeah.
So that's really where we are now.
Yeah, I think it's a radical shift that for a country that has always publicly distanced itself from IMF, that suddenly, of course, people hide behind COVID to say, the circumstances are now extraordinary, and therefore we had to do what we had to do. But I think it's a huge policy shift to eventually go to IMF, and also, especially in a year where we expect so many of these other loans to mature. What kind of pressure does it put on the state?
Yeah, I'm sure they're having sleepless nights on how to manage these things. You have some of them maturing later this one. I think is the Eurobond maturing later this year.
Yeah.
The government has obviously dosed any fires or any sort of panic that's there to say, no, we are ready, we have a plan for it.
Yeah.
But what plan do you have? Is this one of the plan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. Paying a loan with a loan.
Yeah.
So let's see what they have up their sleeves. But I must say it's worrying times for the country, especially when you look 10, 20 years from now. You wonder at the current trajectory we are moving. We don't really have radical economic plans going forward that you can see that perhaps this one will salvage us going forward.
Yeah. I'm told, I don't know how truthful it is, but I heard from very impeccable sources that the Swapo Central Committee meeting last weekend Of course, they set, and apparently Minister Ipumushimi made a presentation to his comrades there, promising, because he was asked to explain to the party how are we going to actually get out of the situation that we are in, and he made some presentations there. I don't know what was the content of his presentation, but I think it's truly worrying that we find ourselves in this space where our debt to GDP ratio now is at 76%. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
Especially when we had a cap all along of 30%. All along, Namibia's cap for debt has been at 30%. And then we went to 40%, and then the government was saying, oh, no, but that is also the SADC benchmark, so we are not very far. But we are not SADC, we are Namibia.
Yeah. Well, it's worrying. I can confidently say that it's not a manageable debt for us where we are right now.
Yeah.
It should raise alarm to all of us. And normally we would say that there's nothing wrong taking a loan if you are going to use it productively to grow the economy and grow the country and improve the livelihoods of the people. But if you're taking loans just to sink the country further into the abyss of poverty and so on, instead of coming up with programs that will improve their lives, then we have a problem. I think where is it standing now? It's about 140 billion?
Yes.
It's mammoth.
It's huge.
It's mammoth. You wonder how long will it take us to work on that and bring it and reduce it. What are the reducing strategies in place? So I hope during the CC meetings those were some of the issues that the comrades were interrogating, especially when the finance minister made his presentation. I hope it was some of the issues they interrogated as to how are we going to reverse this.
Yeah. Indeed. It's worrying. The jobs are being lost. There isn't a very clear plan on how to grow the economy, and sort of, because if there's no growth, obviously there's no way that you can raise, and you look at the deficit also of our budget that was passed by the Minister of Finance earlier on. It was a deficit of, I think, 12 billion that still had to be found from somewhere. Maybe this 3.8 billion is part of it, but it's worrying times. But let's move to the next story, which was the Germans, this whole secrecy around the German reparation deal. We are told that the Namibian government has made this proposition to their German counterparts, but what has been proposed is not very clear. But we are seeing the reports coming from Germany this past weekend, that Germany has ruled out the financial reparations, and that they would rather invest in infrastructure and stuff like that. How do you think this will be taken by, especially those communities that are affected by this thing?
Yeah. You see, there's already division from the word go when the negotiations started. Yeah. And there's been a sentiment that we've been negotiating on Germany's terms. Yeah. And some people will feel vindicated. That, look, this is what we've been saying all along. If this is true, I mean, you have a situation now where the German press, they know what's going on, but the local press here doesn't know what's going on. So what the German government is doing, and the trick they are playing, is to control the narrative. That's why they are pushing out bits and bits of information while our guys are holding it back. So by the time our guys wake up, the narrative is not within their control anymore. And now you have also the division within the two groups. Some are saying that the way the committee was set up, the individuals within the committee are not really from the affected communities and so on. So you don't want another stumble block like this one. So it will be a litmus test going forward as to how this genocide thing will play out eventually. But right now, I would say the Germans are on top. We're trailing.
It looks like it because we tried at Namibian Sun this past couple of days to speak to the Namibian authorities. We spoke to Netumbanani Ndaitwa. She seems to be completely in the dark. We don't know whether she's being disingenuous or she's really being genuine. That she doesn't seem to know the exact terms of that deal. If that is true, what she's telling us, then that's worrying. Your foreign affairs minister doesn't know the terms that are being proposed to another government. Dr. Zed Ngabiro was in Germany last week when we tried to speak to him. He wasn't forthcoming. And therefore, what all this, what this manifests itself into is exactly what you are saying, that the German press and the German voices have actually been the leading voices, while the victims are just trailing.
Yeah. I mean, Tevo, there shouldn't be any secrecy around this. There shouldn't be secrecy. In fact, I expected government to be open about this. And you also then solicit input as the negotiations go on. You don't negotiate in the dark. Every time you come back from Germany, you come and brief the affected communities. Despite the committee, of course, they come and brief the people on the ground, say, this is how far we are, this is what we've discussed. Do you think there's anything we should include that we omitted, or anything that we should remove that we included? So that's the approach I expect. I didn't expect the secrecy approach, and I don't think in the long run it will play to our advantage as a country.
Yeah, the problem with the secrecy is that there's already so much speculation. So it feeds into that especially those voices of dissent that are already opposed, like the Rukoro people who are already very unhappy about this whole thing. They will even use this opportunity to actually sort of seek vindication that they've been right all along. But now these guys are saying, as part of the reconciliation agreement that has now been proposed and is about to be reached, Germany is also to make additional aid payments towards infrastructure, healthcare, job training programs in areas populated by the descendants of the Herero and Nama people. Is that a good thing to say? I don't know, Karas region, Hardap region, or Maheke, Mashalanjupa, where these wars were fought and where people lost their lives, that they invest money there, will that appease some communities?
You once more see how Germany is controlling the entire narrative and the negotiations. From the onset, when the motion was moved, there was never talk of a reconciliation agreement. There's always been reparation agreement. So where is this coming from? And is it for Germany to dictate how they are going to pay? I don't think that's their place. That's their call to make. So that's why you'll have a situation in the end where all these things are rejected. And even if the two governments conclude the negotiations, the affected communities will still continue seeking other relief measures, because they would feel that, no, but our demands were not addressed and they were not met.
Indeed. The third story on our front page is about, of course, the First Lady, Monica Gengos, taking issue with the manner in which the Swapo Party Youth League last week pronounced itself on this issue of homosexuality, calling it a satanic and demonic practice. And the First Lady is saying that these remarks are dehumanizing and it's an oppressive language that is being used. Does she have a point?
Yeah, I think she has a point, because, look, there are better ways to differ and to discuss issues during a national discourse. It's not a win-at-all-cost situation. That's not what we want, because if you win at all cost, the loser will always find a way to come back and try and state their case. So I think SPRL could have put their position across in a much more firmer and professional way, without using terms that are not really, it's not really what you expect at that level of an organization, the biggest youth political movement. I'm sure there are better ways to put their points across.
Yeah, definitely. And that is also particularly so because sometimes I don't understand how these statements are arrived at. How is it a collective, or is this a segment of the leadership of the Youth League that inserted some of these words? Because I'm sure there is also sexual diversity within the rank and file. And when you say some of these things, you are probably even offending some of your own comrades within the Youth League.
Yeah. Well, one would wonder if, because I know in the past, I mean, before statements were issued, meetings were convened. Not just SPOL, other parties also, they would convene meetings. It seems nowadays it's a thing of, this thing is trending, let's jump onto the bandwagon. Or maybe they have their WhatsApp meetings where they approve their statements. But it's worrying because you'll see that they have, they use the majority type of leadership. That if we are in the majority and we agree that this is the type of statement and with this type of content that we're going to push out, we push it out regardless. But what are the ramifications of a statement like that of last week? Yeah, surely they are aware that in their rank and file there are also perhaps people who are sensitive and sympathizers of the topic at hand. So you don't just push them to the curb. Yeah.
Where does it leave Swapo? Because I've heard all sorts of views about this issue. If Swapo approves homosexuality, that will be the end of them. In 2024, they'll be voted out of office. Some will say it will cement Swapo as a progressive movement that is moving with the times and stuff like that. What kind of impact will a decision like that make on a party like Swapo?
Yeah, it will be difficult to preempt it, but I remember when we had the executive director in studio, he said the party is futuristic.
Yeah.
I don't know what he meant by futuristic. The globe is changing and the way we do things is changing.
Yeah.
So we can't have rigid views on certain matters. We need to find platforms where we address, because after 10 years, your child at home will also come and say, no, Daddy, I think I need a cell phone from while I'm in school.
Yeah.
But for you, that was a dream. You couldn't even dream of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So things are evolving.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to evolve with time also. And instead of just pushing people's views to the side, we also need to understand the other side of the coin.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But also in terms of cohesion within the party itself, because now, of course, you have people like Yvonne Dowsab who is now bringing this proposed amendments to the law to Parliament perhaps and Cabinet later and whatnot. And then the First Lady herself is a Swapo member and she commands a block of her own within the party. And then you have the Youth League on the other hand saying no to this kind of things. How do you handle these divergent views for the sake of cohesion within the party itself?
Yeah, the divergent views will always be there. And I think it's good for any organization to have differing views. And those with the top, we call it, those with supreme logic should be able to convince the others.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure in the party people are not unnecessarily rigid on their beliefs.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you convince them why we need to move in a certain direction, if they are really there for the love of the party or the organization, and they are convinced that this is the best way to grow and to sustain our organization, I'm sure they will support a move like that.
Yeah.
But what we've seen in the discourse in recent times is a thing of, you hear it's not Christian like, it's not what we don't really have substance in the discourse we are having. You ask someone, okay, why are you for or against this?
Yeah.
They will give you all biblical stories. Yeah, that's not where we are anymore. We are moving forward, so we need to find other reasons to when we are arguing.
Substantive reasons, especially in a secular state. And it's funny because the Bible, I saw even the Minister of Gender Equality has been using the Bible to talk about, to shoot down things like abortion and stuff like that. And people take serious issue with that kind of position taken by a government leader who ought to know that it's a secular state. You don't use one religious book or the other to state a state policy, because she says, as a Christian, I cannot do that. But you're not there to serve Christians.
Yeah.
You are there to serve all of us. So that becomes difficult, and it's true. There are not reasons that I've seen that there are really few pockets of well-argued facts to say, look, this is a matter of this is a matter of that, and not just the Bible. Let's move to the last point of conversation, and that is our headline, broke NUNW extends begging bowl to affiliates. And this is about the 2 million debt that they have at the municipality of Windhoek. They are struggling to pay off, and NUNW has gone to its affiliates to say, please put some small contributions in the bowl so that we go pay for the to go settle this amount. I'm just wondering. I had Job Muniaro on the agenda recently, and I was talking to him about how NUNW affiliates got fishing quotas. You presided over that story yourself recently. And they have this business empire, the Namibia, what is it? LIH, Labor Investment Holdings. They have things like NAMIC, the financial thing. Why is it difficult that a federation that owns businesses even has to go to the affiliates to beg for money?
Yeah. Well, accountability within the unions has always been a problem over the years. It's been a system that has been used to fill the pockets of those who are at the top. Those with political ambitions have used that as a ladder to get to assume into public office. And you will see that the contributions that are made by the members, do the members even know? Do they even get annual reports as to what's going on in the coffers of the union? Because for me, that's a shocking headline for NUNW to be begging. It can't be. Yeah, if you look at their member base, it's enormous. So where does the money go? You look at their offices. I'm sure it's probably offices they inherited pre-independence. There's no upgrade taking place there. Why is that the case? You have NAPU. It looks like NAPU is doing far better than NUNW. Why is that the case? Those are the things that the members should interrogate the leadership on. Where does their contribution go to? What does it do? So, and I think it's an embarrassment for NUNW in the sense that it once again brings to the fore the relevance of trade unions going forward. Are they still relevant?
Because that is actually what was going to be my next question, to say that we saw, for example, last week, MBC employees trying to chase NAPU leaders away because they felt betrayed as far as this strike is concerned. And then maybe the affiliation to the ruling party. I'm just trying to establish whether the fact that the Swapo has been on a decline lately in the past 2 elections, whether that could also manifest itself within the membership of the unions.
Definitely. Definitely, because you'll see that there is an opportunity, and others will feel that these guys are affiliated to the ruling party. They are supposed to advance our interests against a government led by the party which they're affiliated to. How would that work? Do you really expect objectivity in that regard?
It's hard, and this is why even during the events at the coast of 2015 around there, more than 1,000 fishermen who lost their jobs, and the leadership of both the unions and the party seem to have just washed their hands and say, look, you broke the rules, and there was no attempt to bargain. There was no attempt to reach middle ground with employers, and these things erode confidence of the workers into institutions like this, isn't it?
Yeah, no, most definitely, because you should also remember that members of other unions will also start thinking, so what if we find ourselves in this position one day? What will our union do? Will they wash their hands, or will they genuinely stand out for us? So there are all these things, and you already see the public discourse, the issue of the relevance going forward. Do we still need unions? Because last week at the NBC strike, I was there, and I had a conversation with one of the colleagues, and they were saying, if a strike is legal, why should you have a clause saying no work, no pay, if the strike is legal? Otherwise, then just abolish the right to strike, if that's the case. Because now you'll push me to a point where I have to return to work because I have bills to pay. And who's going to win in the end? It's the employer.
And that has been exactly the case, where we've seen people going back, and we've spoken to some of them, and they said, we have bills to pay. Those were not fake headlines. Those are actual views of people to say, look, I support the principle of the strike. I am agonized by what is happening at the corporation as far as our conditions are concerned. But I am not in any position to stay away from work too long and not get paid, because the difficult thing with this strike is that it's not just about your salary. It's about your pension. It's about your medical things. So many things are not being paid where the corporation contributes. So it becomes extremely difficult. And the work, and that is, I think, where employees are also not happy with NAPU, because to say, how did you allow the no work, no pay clause to be inserted in this agreement? You should have objected totally to this whole thing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know how that one crept in, but also it brings you to the element of, as a union, is there ever a consideration to say, guys, maybe we should start a fund, a sort of a solidarity fund, and take from our coffers and say, workers, we can give you 50% of what you've lost during the strike. Something in that line.
Exactly.
Yeah, because what happens to the money they donate all the years?
But that is exactly what I was asking Job Muniaro here, to say, because he was saying, when I asked why are the unions getting fishing quotas, he was saying, as a matter of fact, we should encourage this practice more, where resources are actually owned by the workers. But in what sense? If when workers are in a situation like this, you can't meet them halfway and say, look, stay on course, stay in your trenches, we'll meet you halfway financially, but stick to your principles. There's no such offers. And therefore people who come from, because we come from all kinds of different backgrounds. Some people come from good families, they have a very good support system at home. Look, if you don't get paid this month, we'll take care of you in some way. Some are the breadwinners of their entire extended family. How will they survive? So it becomes difficult that if unions are involved in commercial activities, then we ought to know, what does it mean? What does that do to, is it just to pay the employees, the Secretary General and the administrative staff of unions, or where does the money go?
Yeah, most definitely. They should really look at that, because if you think now as a worker, what are you getting from them?
There's no point in saying, our union owns the farms, it owns mining concessions, it owns fishing quotas, if that benefit doesn't trickle down to you as a member in any way at all.
Definitely.
But yes, thank you very much for coming.
No, thanks to you.
I appreciate it.
Good.
Tomorrow is Africa Day, and we wish you a very happy Africa Day, and thank you for watching.